For the past several months, I have been using Davinci Resolve. Let's get this out of the way right away. Dollar to value ratio, Davinci is pretty much the best video editor on the market from a technical perspective. That being said, while it is better in every technical way, I often find myself missing Final Cut, which was the editor I learned video editing on. This seemed strange to me, but once and for all, I needed to find out why. So I edited this entire video with Final Cut to see if the magic I missed was purely nostalgia, or if there was actually something there that I couldn't quite nail. So it's been a couple of days since I started this project. Again, I haven't used Final Cut for a full-blown project in months. It's been a while, and I gotta say, a lot of the same, kind of standard stuff you always hear is standing out to me, which is actually kind of surprising me. So I mean, I did some really preliminary tests with my graphics card when I got it with my Mac before I updated to Big Sur, which was, a couple months ago or whenever that, maybe a month ago. And to no real surprise, Final Cut worked great. It was easy to configure, no real headaches there. But the thing that's kind of blowing me away this time is the performance is definitely noticeable. In fact, I'm, rocking a 3-year-old Intel Mac now, and I've updated to Big Sur, running the newest version of Final Cut. My external graphics card is working just fine, and the performance is pretty stellar. In fact, I would go so far as to say I think this has been an improvement. This OS has been an improvement. Now, of course, you guys have heard this before, Final Cut is incredible for performance. So this isn't really anything new. And I guess the only point that I would make here is, Davinci's workflow I've gotten really used to, and I feel like it's very well optimized. And although this is feeling really snappy and really good, I've been good with Resolve's workflow. I mean, it didn't feel like that the workflow was necessarily holding me back. This does feel like it maybe is unlocking a little bit of creativity just because it's so quick. But again, I didn't have a problem, and we came into this project trying to find, something maybe a little bit more unique. And so I think that's the takeaway after the first couple of days and doing the intro is that yes, I'm, first and foremost noticing the performance, but that's not why we're here. There's something else going on, which means, well, we're gonna have to dig deeper. What are you hiding? I think I've got it. Focus my camera friend. It seems like it's doing great. Okay guys, so it's been a couple of days, obviously, new shirt. Since I've had my epiphany as to what Final Cut is doing better, I finally picked that thorn out of the back of my head. I can explain it, but it's that how part and explaining it to you guys that I think is so critical, and in order to do that right, I need some props. So I was literally just about to make a caveat, and explain what these were, but then my wife walked in and said, "Oh, what are those film strips?" So I guess I don't need the caveat. I'm not that crafty. But yes, for the purposes of this demonstration, these are supposed to represent a clip, of old film, movie film, whatever. It gets the job done. Okay, so we've got our film strips finally, our props were all good to go. I think now I can finally start to make my claim. So the first thing I want to define to build up my argument is linear editing. Jake, what is linear editing? Well, I'm glad you asked. Linear editing, if you Google it, is generally defined as sequential or chronological editing. Think old school film, cutting and splicing, literally taking film reels, clips that you've shot with old film cameras, and having to splice those together in a sequential order to make your movie. This was the original way of doing it, and now we call it linear editing, but back then, well, as you can guess, it was just editing. And that was because there was no such thing as NLEs yet. Second thing we should define, what is an NLE? Now, chances are you've used an NLE before if you're watching my videos. These are your Final Cuts, your Davinci Resolves, and your Premieres. They are non-linear editors. These are track-based editors in which multiple tracks can be generated. All of these tracks form together to form your video, and the idea is that as the playhead moves from left to right, it runs into these clips, and then from hierarchical order from top to bottom, it drills down and plays one final image. You can obviously see where this system gained so much popularity and really was part of the digital revolution, because having lots of layers and the ability to do some of this composite work in your editor was obviously much better than, well, linear editing, where you kind of needed the final product to cut it together. Okay, but now that we have those two things defined, I want to give you guys an example of something basic that I do in editing all the time, and it's also going to further my argument that Final Cut does something very unique. Okay, so to get started, let's open up Resolve. That's the first one I really want to show and demonstrate what it is that I'm talking about. Okay, so here's my project in Davinci Resolve editing. Now, let's clear up this whole timeline. So let's say, for example, in Resolve, again, keep in mind that I have, let's shrink our video space up there. I have these tracks here kind of on the side that I can manipulate. So let's say I want to start throwing in some clips, and let's make them look bigger so that we can really see what's going on here. So here's my clip, whatever, it's fine, it's a clip. Now if I want to append a clip in this particular instance, so let's take this one for example, and I drag it down here, I can put it literally anywhere I want. It can be, in the same video 1 track, and off to the side out in space here, I can raise it up and it can be on top. There's nothing that's restricting me from doing anything. I can put it, in a video 3 track. I can 4, the point is clear. This can float completely independent of anything else in time and space. So that is how you would do this in Resolve. Let's look at linear editing. Okay, so let's say we want to do the same thing in linear editing. We want to append a clip in our story, Say, for example, this is our movie so far right here, and, I want to append this pink clip. Well, as we saw in Resolve, I could stick this pink clip all the way out here, and because it's just that track-based system, nobody cares. But if this is a reel of film, I can't do that because it's not attached, right? It has to be attached to essentially feed into our projector. And so this would have to be literally attached. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Now, it was nice in Resolve, because maybe I want to fade out this clip, have a couple frames of black, and then fade in my next clip, or, I don't know, have title here in between, whatever the case may be. But if we want to do that in linear editing, it's simple. We would just say, I don't know, maybe this was our black frames, and let's just flip it over to pretend, you know, this is a black space. Well, then you would just take this and have to attach it in between, right? That's how it would work in linear editing. You know, maybe we do a few frames, and then we want to attach our other clip. And so now this would create that gap that we wanted to make. But again, it needs to be a piece in the timeline or it's not gonna work. Okay, so we're back. Now lastly, I wanna show this exact same appending behavior in Final Cut, and it's gonna show you guys what I'm getting at here. So here is my timeline in Final Cut. Let's make it bigger so we can really see what's going on here. So here's some sample clips, and we're just gonna play around with these. Let's delete this. Maybe I should make a new project. Let's just drag this and you can see the behavior. So let's go over here as if this was our new project. You can see this master track that I'm talking about in the middle here with kind of the darker area. Now if I come over here and grab some clips, for example, and we drag that clip here, you can see, you know, here's our first clip, whatever. Let's grab another clip and put it at the end. Now you'll see right away it wants to put it directly connected to this one. And, you know, I didn't have to do anything special or anything like that. It just goes. This is the magnetic timeline in action. If I try to lift up this clip and move it out into open space here on the right, it doesn't work. A lot of people think that this is so like simple and makes this application dumb, but I think it makes it really powerful. If I wanted to do the same thing in Resolve, all I have to do is raise this clip up, and then you can see that underneath it, a black strip now takes the place underneath the timeline. Okay. Move this clip to the end, put it back down, and now I have this empty space that I can extend however long I want, and this is my sort of, you know, filler or dead zone so that I can kind of get that same behavior in Resolve where this could go, you know, wherever I want. But just like in Resolve, this can now also move up here, and even though there's not tracks kind of being indicated on the side, this is, you know, kind of like a track 2. And if I wanted, I don't know, a track 3, I could take another clip and put it on top of this one. And, you know, just like in Resolve, where I can stack literally as many clips as I want, in Final Cut I can do the exact same thing. They're just not sort of stuck in lanes. They're a little bit more flexible because now I can take all of these and just, you know, put them in my master magnetic track, and you get literally, you know, the exact same behavior. This right here is probably kind of starting to show you what I'm getting at with this video. So the point I'm trying to demonstrate here, guys, is although Final Cut is technically an NLE, on paper it's an NLE, it behaves very much like a linear editor. And it's this that I've been missing the most about Final Cut. I can't help but imagine that probably a lot of you are still going, why? Jake, that's not a satisfying answer, and you know what? You're right. I believe that this behavior is so important because it reinforces one of the most important lessons to any editor or storyteller. Every frame matters. From the first frame of your film to the last and everyone in between, they are all critically important to telling your story. Therefore, every frame in and of itself affects every other frame and vice versa to create a story. So while it is a small conceptual difference and not really a technical one, the idea that Final Cut is based on the ideas of the original linear editing days reinforces to me as an editor that when I craft my story, every clip ripples and affects the other. If I add a moment here, is it pushing back another hit? And maybe pushing back that hit breaks the rhythm of my story. Or maybe taking out a clip and pulling up the clip after it will more quickly get to the point I am trying to get to keep my audience on the edge of their seats. It is the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, and it is the main reason why I miss editing in Final Cut so damn much because we have heard it all before, and I'll say it again. Story matters. So maybe now your natural and final question is, Jake, are you switching back to Final Cut and kicking Davinci to the curb? And well, the short answer is no. I definitely plan on using it a lot more going forward, but I'm still going to use Davinci as well because I'm a huge believer these days that you should be software and brand agnostic. I really want to go off on a tangent here, but let's put a pin in it. That might make a really good future video. So therefore, more than anything, this video was an experiment on myself to dig into the depths of my brain and analyze Final Cut and try to figure out what it was that I was missing. The goal was not to figure out why I need to switch back. The goal was just to get a better understanding of the mechanics that seem to be magnetic and drawing me back to the software and what I missed, and we did that. And that's awesome. And so no, it's not all about am I going to switch or where am I going to switch, but just taking these ideas and applying them to any editor that I use going forward. Because remember, all NLEs are technically doing the exact same thing. Just cutting clips.